Welcome back to Through Black and White Eyes for this look ahead to the Palace game tomorrow night. It's going to be a tough one. I have the Palace prick in the background. I love him. I love him to bits. I'm so glad he came on. Ian is in the background as well. I was expecting Linzi, but I don't know what's happened to her. She's got the link. It was 8:15. Linzi, where are you? But guys, there's loads to talk about. Let's just get through the rubbish stuff first, though. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoy the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget you can become a member. The link is at the top of the chat. We've got an amazing sponsor in Diacro, Baz 20% off. Link is in the description. Another great sponsor as well, football prizes. This one's been done, but please check out the website. They've got loads and loads of different prizes to get raffles for. I'll be doing the watch along tomorrow night straight after work, so that's going to be a rush to get in. But this is the most important one at the moment. We're raising money for Kieran's Deaf Club. We set the target at £100 while Sue did because she didn't think people would donate, and we absolutely smashed it. So just contacted her and said, move it up. So she's moved it up to £400. She's nearly there. Technically, she is there because this channel is giving every single penny profit to the cause, and we're up to about £200 on the channel. So if you donate tonight or you become a member, all that money is going into this charity, and it's amazing. You know, they do trips to Blackpool and all this sort of stuff that needs to be paid for, coaches, hotels, you know, you name it. So we want to help them as much as we can. Steve's got a grin on his face in the background, so God knows what he's typing on Twitter. But let's talk to Ian first before we bring him in. How's it going, Ian?
Good evening, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Tired. Hit me today. I've got to go back to work tomorrow as well. Fuck. Devastated.
Working life, mate. Working life.
I know. I've had a nice 6 days off, I think it's been. Now I've got to go back.
God.
Yeah. Back to my 12 hours tomorrow, though. Right. He's here. He's square. God, he's got a very dodgy clock in the background, but he's here. It's just turned 1/4 on his clock.
Yeah, it's a little bit slow.
It's a little bit slow, just like you, mate. You walked into that one. How's it going, Steve?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, really good, man. If nobody knows, me and Steve know each other for quite a long time now. We talk in private because of the stuff that we send backwards and forwards in the chat. We get banned off Twitter within 30 seconds and probably thrown out the country, to be fair. But we won't tell them what we say to each other.
It's not that, Ian. The main issue I've got with Baz is he sends me a lot of stuff that's like you just wouldn't tweet it, and he's the thing is he sends me messages in saying you need to tweet that, and then he starts threatening me when I say I'm not going to do it, and I just think it's out of order.
He's thrown you under the bus, mate.
He always does. But the thing is, though, it's him who actually does that. I'm just respectful and say, no, not a chance. But Ches is in the chat as always. Leslie's in the chat. Andy's in the chat. It's great to see you all in there. Like I say, Super Chat's bottom right-hand corner. If you want to become a member, like I say, every single penny of profit is going to the Deaf Club, Kieran's Deaf Club that he goes to. And all those children who were at the match against Spurs, they all go there as well. So, yeah, you were 15 minutes early, guys. Oh, it's 1-0 to Arsenal. There's a shock. Chelsea are shit. Yeah, but we kind of want Chelsea to win tonight, don't we? And want Arsenal to win because Chelsea aren't too far behind us. And every time they lose, it's another kick in the teeth into their £1 billion squad, isn't it?
I took the draw on my Super 6, so I wanted it to be a draw.
Did you? I took 2-1 Arsenal, I think. But yeah, subscribing isn't rubbish, by the way. It's very important. Barry just can't be bothered to say it. But thanks, Stuart. I just, you know, if you want to subscribe, you subscribe. It really does help, but it's not the lifeblood of how this goes. Long time see, Steve. It has been a while for Steve, to be fair. Missed a few bruises today. Yes, Lee's son fought in a charity match and an MMA fight. Good on him for doing that. I wouldn't do that. I'll probably be knocked out in 10 seconds, to be fair. Well, let's talk about our favourite subject first of all. We're going to talk about the bias of the Premier League. someone posted this on Twitter and I stole it straight away because it is so true. Literally 2 weeks ago, Sky were only showing the top 6 of the Premier League. And as soon as Newcastle jumped above Man United, they dropped the picture down to 7th place because they want to show Man United in it. If Man United were 10th, they would have dropped it all the way down to 10th. So if you're telling me there's no corruption and there's no bias towards certain teams in this Premier League, this picture just sums it up in a nutshell. Yeah. It's shocking. Steve, I mean, I haven't really spoke to you for a little while about this sort of stuff. I mean, you've seen all the stuff on Twitter as well, the Forest and Everton, but there's a Luton fan in the VAR room, the Man United offside for the Coventry goal. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was tight. You know, I can't explain it anymore. It's just corruption.
I think there isn't an explanation for it anymore. It's like when you're in a game or you're at the stadium and you're in that moment. If you get the decision, great, rejoice, enjoy the goal. If you don't get the decision, then it was to be expected, and it all depends on the night. You know, like who on paper is the big team, who's going to benefit more from it. I mean, I do feel sorry for Forest. For me, I'd say the first one was borderline. It was a bit soft, but it probably in the letter of the law was a penalty. But the second one and the third one were stonewall penalties, and if that was in a Palace game, I'd be very aggrieved. But at the same time, I kind of have taken a step back really with it, and if you get it, great, rejoice. If you don't, then you just know that they're gonna. Every time something happens, every time you score a goal. I mean, even the Mateta goal on Sunday that put us 4-0 up. I mean, it took so long for them to decide it was being looked at, and there was like 5 minutes for them to look at it. They were clearly trying to find a reason to give it against us and rule it out, but because they couldn't, you know, obviously they gave it a goal. But it's just getting boring now, and I've always said this since God was a boy. You only have to look at rugby, you only have to look at tennis, you only have to look at hockey, and it's simple, and it's a 3 versus, or a panel of 3. It's a 2 versus 1 mentality, and it rules in favour for the right decision, and whoever's basically going with that. Whereas with us, you can't hear a word that's being said. It's very cloak and dagger. It's very untransparent, and you don't have anyone coming out even after the game and explaining anything. And even when the managers, I mean, like you have to look at Gary O'Neill, and you have to look at some of the decisions that Forest have had against them and stuff. And no wonder their managers are losing their heads, because you know, it's passion and emotion and everything that's sort of going on at that moment in time. You know, it's beyond frustration from that point of view, and points are so vital. And when if it's borderline, fair enough, but when it's stonewall, it's just disgusting now, and it's getting to the point where as soon as you sort of look at who's the referee and who's on VAR, you know straight away if there's something that's contentious, you ain't getting it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing against one of the bigger sides, you've got no chance. And that's kind of how it's going now. And these guys are now paid 140 grand a year plus expenses, and it's a disgrace, in my opinion, now.
To be fair, it has eradicated some bad mistakes. Like last night, like they mentioned here in the Championship, if Leeds scored that goal in the last minute last night, it was offside by a mile. But yet it stood in the Championship because they don't have VAR. The problem is VAR, like you said, it's been used to try and find a reason to disallow a goal every single time a goal is scored, which is not what it was meant to be used for. It was meant to be used to eradicate the really bad decision. And like I said, not being mic'd up is the worst thing. Look at cricket when they do a
you can hear everything on cricket.
You hear
can
everything. They talk about it, saying, "Right, I want to see this. I want to hear
on
that."
Hockey, but you can't hear anything on football. And and the reason why it's taking 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes at a time to give a decision is because they are physically looking at anything they can do to side with the big sides, and that's why you can't hear them. And they refuse to allow that to happen. And VAR on Sunday was a prime example.
I mean, they do release the footage eventually, don't
someone
they?
else as a joke.
Yeah, but they do release the footage eventually. But it's 48 hours after the moment, isn't it? And it doesn't explain why the goal wasn't ruled out or why it was ruled out. It's just, and they do that thing on Sky on a Monday where they talk through the decisions, which is just shocking, isn't it, Ian?
It is. I mean, the Coventry one for me was just. If that was any other club that Coventry were playing, Coventry would have won that game, I thought. And I just thought it was so harsh on Coventry not to go through that final. And you know, Man United were gone. They were finished when it got to 3-2. I thought Man United were gone anyway. They were all over the place. And for that to go to VAR, it was a toenail. Come on, man. And then we'll go back to the Isak one where we played Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
And things like that. And the Middlesbrough game last night. How was Tony Harrington refereeing that football match? He's from Middlesbrough.
Is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from. I'm sure he's from Middlesbrough, down that way on. I watched that game and it had a bit of everything. That Middlesbrough Leeds game last night. It was end to end, and there was some decisions which was very Tony Harrington like, which let things go. And like I say, the goal that was offside. Christ Almighty at the end, but. That's football. I would love to bring that part of the football game back where it's.
I do and I don't.
Did you watch the game last night, Ian?
Yeah, I watched the.
You must have found that quite weird watching the biggest side in the northeast playing.
No, but the thing is, that was a Yorkshire derby. That mate, we're not quite.
Yeah, exactly.
But that. Like I say, VAR, it spoils it in so many ways, but it helps it in so it's another
VAR in Europe is a different kettle of fish.
Do you know what it is?
VAR in Europe works really well.
That will keep pulling out the bag on a show where we should be talking about other things, but it always seems to go back to decisions what are hurting football teams that are favouring the big teams. And I mean, the penalties that other teams get and the decisions that other teams get. And when you're wanting a decision for your club and you don't get it, you think, Christ, it has to be something absolutely like stone wall before you actually get that decision. Where the other so-called clubs, it just has to be a slightest little bit of contact before they're wanting to give that decision, which is standing out like a sore thumb and it's getting ridiculous and it needs to be changed.
I agree.
Let's bring Linzi in. You know full well, Ian, that some of the examples of some of the things that are happening, if they're up the other end, when you're playing a bigger team on paper, hands down, it's getting given against you.
1,000,000%. Look at Jota. When we went away to Liverpool. Yeah, with Dubravka came out. He actually pulled his arm away from it, and then he stumbled, and he dived. It was 3 to 4 steps later, and he gave the penalty. It
fell over, yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Baz, can I just make a point, mate? You sent me the terms and conditions and the due diligence and the compliance side of things for the sort of rationale behind who you can choose for these shows. Clause 13.8 said no witches. So I'm a bit confused why we've got one on.
Love it. I would never do that to War Linzi.
Hi, Steve. It's all right. That's his pet name for me. I know he says it out of love. Yeah.
It's only love. Right. What's your thoughts on VAR, Linzi, at the moment? It's shit.
Do you know what it is? They went through a patch, didn't they, where they were interfering too much and everyone kicked off. and then they stopped for a bit, and it was nice. And then all of a sudden, over the last few weeks, they've just started poking into it again all the more. And
that's because too many other teams have been winning.
yeah, that'll be it. It's coming to the end of the season now.
Yeah. Title race. They need to keep the title race going, didn't they? That's the reason why.
Farewell tour's got to still be on point, but
Yeah, exactly.
But I just think the.
I mean, it is worth noting that they haven't eradicated one thing. I mean, when Isaac's running through on goal and Gordon's running through on goal, and the blatant diving and acrobatics to try and con referees is being ignored. I mean, you know, that really needs eradicating from the game, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
No, exactly. I do think that there was a penalty given the other day in Man United where it hit off the arm of a player and it was given as a penalty. When was that? The other day.
Oh God,
no, that was Chelsea.
A bigger one. Bigger one is the one the other night with Forest. That handball with Ashley Young. Given handballs I've seen given against us. There was one given against Dan Burn a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but the handball rule changes every week.
Oh, I've given up with the handball.
1 week it'll be one kind of mindset. The following week, when it's exactly the same thing, oh no, that's not a handball, and you're like, what?
It was the one where he got taken down from behind. Was the one that was definitely a penalty. The handball one for me, I'm dubious on the handball one because of the distance.
That was the bit. That was the bit, Linzi, that Baz liked the most because he was taken from behind.
I love it. Right, here's one for you for everyone, really. I think it's quite funny. Arsenal are eyeing up 165 million double move for Newcastle's Alexander Isak and Crystal Palace's Michael Olise in the summer. So they obviously rate Olise at about 35 million because obviously Isak's 130.
Yeah, as
so, hey, I'm telling you. But I mean, come on, this is ridiculous, isn't it, Steve? At the end of the day, it's just pure wind up. I mean, the Guardian of all. Why would either player want to go to Arsenal anyway?
I'm not really bothered about all of that stuff. You know my feelings on in the nose and people spreading rumours.
This is the Guardian. It's the newspaper.
At the end of the day, papers, magazines, in the know, whatever. Even if it's Indy Carlia and the old KFC idiot, you know, it means nothing to me until someone's gone and they're pictured in a different coloured shirt and they're playing for a different club, whatever. But either which way, you know, our recruitment has been outstanding, and you know we've got a spine in our team now that a lot of teams are after. And if these players go, then they go. At the end of the day, they're playing for someone else, but we will be better off significantly money-wise. And Elise's got a release clause of 75 million. Eze's got a release clause approaching 100 million, apparently. I don't know whether it's true or not, but either which way, if someone wants them, they both sign 5-year contracts, then they'll have to pay huge money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Arsenal are they? Nope, over the bar. Right, an old... Go on.
Again, because obviously we've got speculation with Bruno and Isak all the time, and all your top players. Now, if you're signing world-class players, you're going to attract world-class clubs to come in for them, and that's part and parcel of football. It's exactly what I just said there about these top players there, that they've got high release clauses for that reason. Now, if you were a so-called smaller side, the papers don't talk about them players, but if you've got, like you just said there, about a good spine about his side, you can see why people are drawing attention to him all the time, because the facts stay that they score goals on a regular basis, they create stuff, they're exciting to watch. Now, them players that stand out on TV, or the journalists will go, where will I think I'm going to start? Let's tout them at Arsenal, let's tout them at Manchester City, let's tout them at these big clubs, just because they want the clicks for the newspapers and they want the clicks for that thing's what's going on. But like you just said there, until they cough up that kind of money, I mean, our players now, our top players have got massive release clauses in there. And there's talks, obviously, about Isak signing his new deal for a bigger release clause in his contract, right? Now, they're going to have to cough the money up. And these so-called other teams, if they want the players, It's as simple as that. They're going to have to cough the money up.
So the reason why people are interested in our players is quite simple, because Palace, as much as I criticise them for various things, the infrastructure, the leadership, and the owners are, have really let us down. I mean, we've had to put up with 5.5 seasons of Hodgson over the last 7 years, and that's been extremely painful. However, what we have done right is we have plucked players that other teams wanted, and we've bought them really well, like Mark Gay, Anderson, Decore, Elise, Eze, Adam Wharton's another one that we've just got who's going to be some player, Sam Johnson. So we've got a proper nucleus, and what's hurt us is Parish and the lack of ambition, and also keep going back for Hodgson and that negativity, football defending for 90 minutes. And the players got pissed off with it. They got bored in the end. They had enough. And that's why Wilf Zaha left, because he's like, there's no ambition here. He's had to go to Turkey to play Champions League football. And at the end of the day, if teams want our players, it's quite simple. You're going to have to pay big money to get them. The one player I don't think will go is Decore because of his injury this season. I think that will help us keep him. But I think, if anything, and this was backed up on Sunday, I was at the bar at the pub. It was really random. We were talking about Adam Wharton, and two of my mates were like, "Oh yeah, he's 21," and another one was like, "Oh no, he's definitely 19." And then this woman just turned around to me and said, "I can guarantee you he's 20." And I went, "How do you know that?" She goes, "Because I'm his mum." I mean, probably in a good place to tell me how old he is. And we're having a great chat. But she was saying to me, she thinks Mark Gay will go, and one of Eze Elise might go. Probably more likely to be Elise. We might even be lucky to keep Eze. We'll see for one more year. But either which way, we're going to be in a great position because we're going to have a big influx of money. And then it's all about who you recruit in replacement for that.
Yeah. We've been interested in Anderson as well. I know that, and I think he's a fantastic player. And I think he'd be a great addition for us if we signed Anderson. By the way, and then when a lot of Newcastle fans, when we spoke about it, went, he's not a very good footballer, but I think he's a fantastic defender.
He's outstanding, and I'm not saying that just because it's Palace. His ability to read the game, to intercept the stuff that's coming through, to command the area, which helps us because Henderson's absolutely useless at commanding the area. But when he does get the ball and he looks up, his passing accuracy and his cross-field balls are just ridiculously good, and it really does help us from that side.
See, the thing is what when I look at it is because obviously Fab Shaw signed another year, right? But as going forward, we'll have to find a player of his ability because he thrives on his cross-field balls and stepping into play and reads the game very well. I just think Anderson's a perfect fit for when he comes to complement Botman as well. Now, I just think it'll be fun if it materialises. I just think it'll be a solid signing for Newcastle if that comes about.
I think there's a distinct possibility that he could go this summer, and he could go to you, and it will probably be somewhere around the 40 million mark.
Yeah,
that you'd pay for him. But at 40 million in today's market, that's a really astute signing and a bit of a steal, really. But for us, it just means we can go out and we can replace him probably with two other players and a bit of strength in depth, which is what is vital to us right now.
Yeah,
strength and depth is something we don't have. You were speaking about Roy Hodgson. We've had a bit of banter about him, but he did save you, remember, when he come back and kept
He never
us up.
saved us.
He did, he saved you.
As we've had this conversation loads of times, he never saved us. What saved us was the fact that Eze and Elise came back from injury, which was caused by him.
And Roy Hodgson picked them and let them play their own game. It was great to watch.
And the quality, plus the fact we had Zaha as well, and we had Gay and Anderson at the back, and we had all those players were suddenly fit. That made a huge difference. Plus the fixture list that we had, they were all winnable games, and we won them easily. And that was the difference. It was nothing to do with Hodgson. Hodgson just thought, I'm in here for 8 games. I'll let them play freely, see what happens. And then stupidly, Parish then decided to offer the old Git another stint, and it affected us massively. And if he, I maintain this all the while, got a hole in my bum. If we'd have kept the guy on, we would have gone down, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, illness and all that sort of stuff. Let's not bash him too hard because he's had a great career, hasn't he? Really, when you think about it,
great career. He's the worst manager we've ever had. I would rather have a pissed up George Burley or
would you rather have a Steve Bruce
over him?
Steve Bruce over Hodgson?
No.
There you go, then. There you go.
I wouldn't want to disrespect Newcastle because Steve Bruce is hands down the best manager that Newcastle have had in the whole of their existence.
So then, if he's the best manager we've ever had, then you.
And I'm sorry, Baz, we've had this conversation before. The way Newcastle treated Steve Bruce was absolutely disgusting and unacceptable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I stopped putting cabbage on my Sunday's dinner because of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Ian become a meat eater because of him. He stopped being vegan.
That cabbage is back on my Sunday dinner now. I love it.
I love it. Well, what do you make of your new man who's took over?
So obviously, it was always going to be difficult in the first the initial period of him taking over because the main issue with the squad, it was Hodgson fired, and other than Elise and Eze, who are clear as day, they're borderline world class for me. It won't be long before they're at that level, especially if they move and go somewhere else. But trying to get players like Schlurp and Ward and those sort of players to be a bit more attack-minded, is always going to be difficult in those first few games to get the message across. And the fitness regime that Hodgson had was absolutely horrific because we would play a game on the weekend and then they wouldn't train for 2 or 3 days. And then he'd wonder why the fitness levels weren't there coming up to the weekend and playing and stuff. And while we've had 19 hamstring injuries this season alone.
Ouch.
Elise and Eze played on Sunday, and that was only their 4th game they've played all season together, including substitution appearances. And that's how bad it's been. And I know you guys have had a bad list, but ours has kept rising and rising and rising. A few then come back and then they were off again, and it's kind of gone like that. So we've never had any consistency from that side. But the way that we, even taking corners, even set plays, free kicks. I mean, you only have to look at the free kick that Eze scored against Spurs. I mean, we were all over Spurs and then we ended up losing. We were all over Man City. We could have been 3-0 up after 20 minutes. Unfortunately, we weren't clinical enough. And De Bruyne then influenced the game like he did. But every game that we've played, we should easily have run away and won the game, apart from the Man City game. And the way that we completely controlled Liverpool at Anfield, and on Sunday, it was coming. I mean, we could have scored double figures. It was that mad.
Yeah, but so could have Liverpool, let's face it. It was a very good end-to-end game. Liverpool had some gilt-edged chances as well.
They had chances,
you had chances as well.
They weren't chances when you're defending that well. And Mateta should have put us 2-0 up. Eze should have put us 3-0 up against Liverpool. We have to find a way, particularly over the pre-season and summer, to start to be more clinical as a team once the season starts next season. Because the amount of chances we create and it makes it look bad on us. It makes us look like we're really poor and we're not. We've got the quality in the side. We've got game changers in the side, but it's just finishing. I mean, Mateta, he's just starting to show what he can do. And he's now scored 7 goals this side of the season. So, his hold-up play, the way that he's positioning things and stuff like that has been exemplary. But the main difference has been Elise and Eze back together.
I tell you what, though, Steve, that overhead kick from Eze against West Ham,
unreal.
Oh, That was a good goal.
He could have walked off in the 65th minute when he was substituted, and that was another thing with Glasner. His in-game management is outstanding, whereas Hodgson would have kept him on until the 98th minute, including injury time. Eze could have walked off with 5 goals if he'd have been more clinical.
He was unbelievable the other day. Him and Elise were just on another level against. I was sat there and I was watching, and they were for me, the stars of the show. They were just unbelievable. They controlled it.
I like watching them too.
We sat there at half time, and I said to the guys that I've stood next to for a long time now, and the row behind, and we all said in tandem, "Wow, that's the best 45 minutes we've ever seen at Selhurst." It was just ridiculous. And I know the trolls and the critics can sit there and say, "Oh yeah, but West Ham, they played in Europe, they were tired." Get lost. I'm not interested in that. They've got players like Kudos, they've got players like Bowen, they've got game-changing players like that, Paqueta and stuff like that. Possibly won't be there next season. Some of them, maybe, who knows? But we put them to the sword. We literally didn't give them a chance at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, you're on about your manager as well. I mean, Mateta, when he was at our place early in the season, I thought he was absolutely woeful as a centre-back. Yeah, I just thought he brought nothing. And then, like you've said, he scored 7 goals on this end of the calendar and took him up to 12 goals this season. So, and you can see it in his performances that the manager must be growing in confidence. But you've got your 2 wide men, what are obviously with Elise and Eze, that are just the right handful, and they've scored up to 27 goals between them. So the front 3 is going to be a right handful.
I think there's 2 key things there. So under Hodgson, there was no coaching whatsoever. He had Les as his assistant manager, who, he was past it as well. And the coaches that we had there was literally no coaching going on. And you only have to look at Newcastle. I always use this as a prime example. If you look at Lewis Miley, you guys had a load of injuries, and Eddie Howe, he's a PE teacher, and he gets people to use like apparatus and mats and stuff like that as training, which is out of date, and that's down to him. But he sat there and he's like, "Okay, what am I supposed to do? I've got what I've got. Oh, let's have a look at Lewis. Oh yeah, but he's only 17." And he's just sat there and thought, that's irrelevant. And then he's basically put him in, and he sat there, and you could clearly see it in the next game they played, because I watch all games, because I love football, obviously. He sat there and he said, "Right, Lewis, what you did in the last game is you've done this, and this well, and you've done that, and that bad. Go away and work on those bad bits. Drill them, practice them, spend time on them. You'll be in the squad the next game, no problem whatsoever." So that confidence building exercise has happened. And make sure you work on those key areas, because that's where you're going to get your growth. And the kid's gone away, he's listened, he's done all of that. He's come in the next game, and all the bits that you could clearly see that were frailties with him, he's starting to eradicate, and he's getting better and better every game. And now he's a fully fledged first teamer. Yes, injuries are giving him that opportunity, granted. But it's about coaching. And where I'm going with that is, if you look at Mateta, like Ian has mentioned, and you look at Mitchell's been our player of the season, in my opinion. He's got the most tackles and interceptions out of any defender in the Premier League. And he's now coming forward. He's now getting around the back of the fullbacks, and he's crossing balls in, and he's getting around the back of them to knock those opportunities in. And that's exactly what happened against Liverpool. And that's how we scored the goal. 31 passes, total football, and a pure.
Oh, it was a lovely goal. It was a lovely goal.
And he's clearly doing that, and he's listening. And Hodgson is so out of date. He just don't do anything. He just thinks, I've got my one-size-fits-all tactic, and that's going to win us games, and it's never going to do that. And Glasner is the thing with Glasner. I'll be honest, never heard of the guy before we got him. I fully expected us to be in for other options, but Glasner's got a massive European pedigree. He went to Wolfsburg on a shoestring, got them in the Europa League 3 seasons in a row. Frankfurt stood up and looked at that, thought, okay, we'll have him. He's gone there, four seasons, got them in Europe every season, and then won the Europa League. He fell out with them over budgets and stuff, and that's why he left. But he was that good that Bayern Munich were looking at him before they employed Tuchel. So at the end of the day, there's a possibility that we've got ourselves a right steal. But for him, the key is the club backing him. And if they don't back him, then we've got problems because we could lose him. But I think the early signs and what's been said are that he will be backed. And if we lose players like Gay and Elise, I mean, there's probably 160 million there straight away that he's going to have to spend.
Yeah, and there'll be more than that because of FFP, the way that it works, amortization thing. He could have 300 million to spend potentially, which would be very interesting. All right, so enough about Palace for now. Let's talk about man that you mentioned, Lewis Miley. He's going to be out for the rest of the season because he's got a back injury, but they're not going to rush him back, which I think is a very sensible thing to do. This was from the press conference today. He says, we're just thinking about his long-term prospect, which is a very sensible thing to do in my eyes. Eddie Howe on Crystal Palace. We've had 2 very good performances that have been coming for them. Credit to the new manager who's come in and played a new system that has got the best out of the players they have. For us, we can't underestimate this going to a difficult game against a team in form. We know we have to be at our best levels to win. Linzi is right though, isn't he? Because we've been to Palace a few times and been on the end of some pretty horrible scorelines, to be fair. We got battered under Steve Bruce and managed to get a 1-1 draw with that Callum Wilson bicycle kick. Then the tables turned because last season we battered them and then they ended up getting a draw. It's a tough game tomorrow night.
Yeah, but with the form that they're in as well, it's going to be a tough one.
If we still had Hodgson, it wouldn't be a tough game. It would be a very routine, easy win for you guys, to be honest, because there was no backbone in the team. And so it's amazing, the same players as what Hodgson had. Look at the difference. And, I mean, the 3 going forward together look really dangerous. And I never thought I'd say Mateta looks dangerous going forward, but another couple of goals on Sunday, and he looks really confident right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be on our toes. I think the only thing I do worry a lot when we're away from home at the minute because our away form hasn't been what it was last season. Nowhere near. We've been really inconsistent away. I mean, who was it we were playing away a couple of weeks ago? I think it was Fulham. We were away at Fulham and
battered them. They battered us, but we beat them.
For the first half, I couldn't believe we went into half time at 0-0. I really couldn't. But that moment when you saw Eddie, he had them all in a circle, and I don't think I've ever seen him look so angry. I was sitting watching. I was going, look, Meg, they're getting told off. He's telling them off, you know. And then they came back and they were
doing his PE teacher thing in a circle, wasn't he?
It was and it was his face as well, like the contortion, the anger in his face, and I was like, he is mad. And the way the team came back though after that talk and reacted. That moment there was when I sat there and I said, you know what? Anybody who said Eddie Howe out needs to look at this right now, because you find another manager that can drill that into that team in that way and get them playing that way just through a stern 2-3 minute talking to. You know, not even that really. It was while Dubravka was down, he'd been trod on or something, hadn't he?
The thing that concerns me the most about tomorrow night, and it's an off-piste kind of scenario that I'm going to talk about, but I think a very valid point to make is against Dortmund when you got absolutely battered and your whole stadium emptied after 52 minutes. The thing that concerns me is I've believed that the same thing will happen at Selhurst, and I think it's not very climate friendly, the fact that you're going to leave your coaches running and burning all that fuel, because in the 52nd minute everyone is going to leave to go back to Newcastle. And I just think that it's going to be, the air quality is going to be so poor, and I just don't think it's fair on.
Well, of course it's going to be poor. We're down in London.
Wait, London's a clean place, mate. I've told you this before.
Exactly.
You don't see all them ULEZ cameras.
You know, it's a horrible place. The air pollution in Newcastle is a disgrace, mate.
Well, you wouldn't know. Your fans never come up.
Mate,
I bring about 4 buses, and that's about it.
I was up there, mate, and we had a full complement, and I was up
Did
there.
you bollocks? We took pictures. We saw you.
Up, mate.
You know what? Actually, I was at the Crystal Palace game this season.
Yeah,
before
I saw
got
you
banned.
outside. You were selling the half and half scarf.
Oh, shut up! Yeah,
I saw you wearing one as well, but I didn't want to
but
tell
you know what,
anyone.
Steve? I saw you getting up to go early when we started pounding all the goals in. I was right next to all the away fans. In fact, I did see some Crystal Palace fans get taken out by the police. No, I'm winding you up.
I've been to games where we lost 4-0 to Sunderland. We lost 3-0 to Huddersfield. I don't leave games early.
Well, it's a waste of money, isn't it? Why would
Stay
you?
there to the end.
Yeah, you might as well watch them score more. Get your money's worth. Anyway, moving on. I did a little video.
Don't ever let me see you wearing a half and half scarf again. It was vile. Made my eyes sick.
Do you know what? I've only worn one once. No lie. The only time I've worn
a lie. I've seen you selling it every game.
Shut up, will you? The only half and half scarf I own is a Newcastle PSG one from when I went to the PSG game. That is the only one I own, and I bought it for that exact reason. So shove that up your ass.
I saw you nick that one off a poor old guy who was selling them. So you batter him as well.
I'm not coming on again if this is what I'm going to get.
Oh no. It's that way. Baz,
I'm not being funny. This is a woman that stole a dog the other day and put videos of it up on Twitter. Some little old dear's lost her dog now because of her.
Well, at least Linzi will look after her better. What can I say? Right. There's a player I want to talk about because I think it's very interesting, and I think Palace could be potentially interested in him as well because he's cheap. Now, I raved about this kid 2 years ago, and then he ended up going to Paris Saint-Germain. Everyone was like, "Oh, bridges are burned," all this sort of stuff. Don't go.
Oh, this little bugger.
Linzi, and can I just say something about Baz? He's always raving about kids on his shows. It's a bit worrying.
That's going to get cut.
Do you know? You better have Baz because it'll end up cut with all the trolls. They'll just.
That's what I mean. It'll be them. It'll be them doing it. So, Mr. Ikitiki, or Ikitiki, however you pronounce his name.
Oh, sorry, Baz. Sorry to interrupt. I've just got a message from John Sinclair. He said your show is really crap, and his is better.
Oh man, not a good thing to say right now between all that sort of stuff. But there you go. We don't talk about other channels on here. We do not disrespect other channels, and we do not talk about them in any other way. Moving on. Right, we need another striker. We need a third striker. We need someone who's young, who's willing to learn. Is Ekiteke now at £14 million an absolute steal? Ian, you first.
No.
Oh, why?
Definitely not. He's done nothing.
He never really was at Paris Saint-Germain, was he? With Messi there, Mbappe there. You know, it was a stupid when Neymar was there. It was a silly move for him.
Not for me.
I understand why he went there, but I just think, he's got so much to offer.
I think there's better out there, me. I really do. I just think
£14 million.
I think it's a £14 million gamble. I really do. And I think the club will not risk even 14 million on a gamble where he's clearly took the piss in the first place. And I think it's exactly what it says. The bridges are burned for me. And I just don't think Eddie Howe's in that mindset or anything to go, we'll give somebody a chance. I just think that'll be it for me. And definitely not. No.
No, Linzi?
I'm a no.
Oh, wow. I'm sure.
I'd rather we brought Minter back off, like kept him off loan next season and used him as I know he plays on the wing and stuff, but use him as a forward and things like that because he's looking positive. But Ekitike, it's just the way everything was done before, and he didn't have a good time at PSG. From what you could see from the news outlets and the reporting, he didn't have the best attitude. He didn't have the best work ethic in him. There's a reason he didn't really get his game time, not just because of the players he had ahead of him. If he'd made himself worthwhile, he would have been a really good impact sub to prove his place. But, there's got to be a reason for it. And, for me, I just wouldn't trust him. I mean, I'd love to be proven wrong because, I never wanted Anthony Gordon. But then I said, as soon as he was in black and white, he's our little, I said, he's a little shit. But once he's in black and white, he's our little shit. So my attitude could end up changing if we do end up buying him, because it always does. Like, once they're in black and white, I will back them. But personally, I'm a no.
Do you know the thing is, quickly there, do you know the thing is with Anthony Gordon? Yeah. Anthony Gordon, when he was at Everton, he had a different side of his game which players didn't like and what people didn't like when he came across that way. When he's been a Newcastle United player, he's a completely different player.
Yeah,
he hasn't got that shithouse what he was at Everton, where I think he was just in an awful place in his career. And when if you've watched the overlap with Gary Neville, I mean, it's absolutely remarkable what he speaks about, and you can just see how much he cares about football now. And he wanted that break to get away from a club where I think he was kind of suffering, even though he loved that club because he's brought up round there. And I just think that little shit footballer, it's not there anymore. What you see of Anthony Gordon is you just see an honest work rate. His attitude is just he's exciting to watch. Everything about the kid now is just, I think he's on a different level. And we're lucky to have Anthony Gordon, because I think if he went to Chelsea as well, I think you would have seen levels of Anthony Gordon at that level as well. He just needed to get away from that football club in my eyes. And we're lucky to have him.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Steve, going back to Ekitike, would you take him at Palace? Would you take a risk on him for £14 million?
I'm kind of torn, really, but given some of the footage we've seen and some of the stuff that's come out about him, I think he's got an attitude problem. I think the problem with some of these players, especially when they go to a big team on paper like a PSG or a Man City, is half the time they just go there and they don't play football, and he's just sat there watching football, and he's only gone there for the money. Clearly, you only have to look at Calvin Phillips, $285,000 a week. He ain't played football for 2 years at West Ham, and he's absolutely bombed. He's nowhere near the same.
That's a shocker, running.
The reason why PSG bought Ekitike because was his kind of goal scoring prior to that. But he ended up looking. So what does that say? And the fact that they've been willing to loan him out 2 seasons in a row kind of shows you where he's at as a player, and he's just not at that level. And if he's not, no disrespect to PSG, yeah, they're a big side and whatnot, and they're a powerhouse, but it is the French league, and if you can't make it at PSG, and you've been loaned out twice and you've been sent back as well on one loan, and he was offered out for loan again in January and no one wanted to take him, kind of shows where he's at as a player. And I just don't think he's at that level. And if he's not at PSG's level in League One, he ain't at Newcastle's or Palace's level, the Premier League. He's just not going to cut it, unfortunately, for me. And 40 million sounds cheap in today's market, but it's very cheap. It's a chunk of money that's a waste.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mintner, a great example there. Mintner, we paid a hefty chunk for a young player that was sent back on loan to Feyenoord. Right now, he's got the stats where he's up there with the best in Europe on some of what he's doing right now. That club doesn't want him to come back to Newcastle. They want to keep him there. Now, that goes to show what type of player he is. If you reverse the roles of Ekitike, he's went from a lower league and went to Paris Saint-Germain, and Paris Saint-Germain's went where he's not. They're trying to force him out the door, really, by giving him on a low. Now, that's the difference of what a potential player's got as a young age. For me, I just think the Ekitike one, there's something not right there. If you look at Mintner, I think he's another Anthony Gordon type where he's looking to learn.
Mhm.
He's getting better and better, and especially when he's playing Champions League football on a regular basis. He's just won a cup final at the weekend. He'll go in the right direction. I think Ekitike will probably just go off the rails and fall away down the league's and I just think you'll forget it. A name that'll just be forgotten about in my eyes.
But the fact that they were willing to let him go out on loan 2 seasons in a row with
he's out on loan now.
Permanent move and a buy-on fee just shows how willing they were to let him go. And he was supposed to be the next best thing when they signed him. So
it was the next step up. It was.
Yeah, well, you have to look at it as well. How many times have we seen players, young players, do well for a couple of seasons or whatever, even the first season, and then they get all these people, and it's not just the media, it's everybody around them telling him, you're going to make it, you're big, and it's almost like some of them can get above their station before they've actually got, you know what I mean? Like, you haven't actually achieved that yet. Like, you've got the potential, but sometimes you can have that many people saying it to you that you would start to believe it as a young'un, and that can be really detrimental.
And you don't have the hard work, do you? Because you think you've already made it when you
already made it, so I don't need to work any harder. But actually, you do. You need to work every day because you need to improve every single day.
It's a fair shout. Right. Anthony Gordon has 10 goals and 8 assists in the Premier League this season. He's just 2 assists away from becoming only the 3rd Newcastle United player to register double figures for both goals and assists in a single Premier League campaign, after Andy Cole did it in 1993, 94, and Will Fox in 94 and 95. Just shows you how poor we've been when it comes to having an all-round player, doesn't it? We have to go that far back for those stats. And it shows you how good Anthony Gordon really is and why he deserves his England call-up. Right, let's get to teams because we're running very late. These are the players.
But we're only running late because Linzi couldn't be asked to show up.
I thought it was you. We couldn't shut you up.
But the thing is, you know why she was late, don't you, Baz? Because she was stealing on someone else's dog as well.
Another dog.
Actually, I was out on my broomstick.
There's no chance, love. I heard the dog wardens constantly outside your house trying to get the dog back.
That's the Premier League, that, mate. Right, so these are the players missing for Palace potentially tomorrow night. Is this all right, Steve? Does this sound right? Lerma, Franca, Gea, Decore, and Johnson. Which one are you most disappointed about? Who's out at the moment?
Well, Lerma for me has been player of the season. He's been absolutely outstanding, along with Mitchell. They've been sort of level pegging for that, so it's a shame. It's really frustrating that Hodgson pushed Franca to the point where he got injured, came back, and then got him injured again. So we haven't really been allowed to see him because there's an agenda against youth. Gay being out and Decore being out has hurt us quite bad. And Lerma kind of sort of softened that blow a little bit, and now he's out, so that's not ideal. And Henderson in goal, I think he's a terrible signing, 20 million down the drain. And you only have to look on Sunday, you know, Mitchell's passed the ball back. Granted, in his defence to Henderson, it was a poor pass back. But the fact that he tried to piss about with the ball and dilly-dally with it and let it go under his feet, I mean, that was just shocking, that really was.
This is why we're running late, you see, because he just answers a simple question by going on and on and on and on and on. So Lerma
Arsenal 2-0 up.
That's good. That's good for us. Ian, look at our list. It's just growing again. Who's the one player that we're really missing out of that list, do you think? I think Nick Pope, personally, myself.
I think the one player you're missing the most is
Steve. I asked Ian. Right, go on, Ian. I'm with you done.
Yeah,
you can learn to take his turn.
Yeah. As much as I think Kieran Trippier has been a massive miss for us, I just his leadership, his professionalism for us. I think it's just. When he's not there, you just realise what such an important player he is. You know, just his assists from fullback and what he brings into play, and what he creates as well from there. He's up there with the best in the league. So And when like that, right? When you revert back to type, when you've got either Kraft or Murphy playing at a fullback, you just lack that creativity. And then when you're watching other players taking dead balls, Bruno's, and it doesn't seem right, and that cog just doesn't seem to be there without Kieran Trippier for me. I think he's up there, one of the biggest misses we've had, as well as Nick Pope, mate. I totally agree with Nick Pope. His clean sheets last year, and I know people criticise about his feet on the bottom and stuff, but if you've noticed, a lot of the times how far up the pitch Nick Pope is, when that ball's over the top, he'll sweep it up. I think Dubravka, he finds himself in a little bit of no man's land, and our defence are just they don't know whether to come or go at times. And I think that's where we've been quite vulnerable of conceding goals as well. I like Nick Pope's been a massive miss, but Trippier for me, mate, it's just on and off the field as well. He's just world class.
Yeah, Lindsay.
I mean, I'm going to say Nick Pope, if I'm honest. I do agree Trippier is a big miss. I think we miss his leadership on the pitch, definitely. But Popey has just been such a massive miss for a lot of the reasons. Obviously, what was just before. I think Popey commands his box better. I think I think the defence are more confident with Pope behind him. Dubravka does have a habit of, he can get himself caught in no man's land. He could be quite indecisive, when he needs to come out and try and close the ball down. There's times he'll just stay on his line, and when he stays on his line, when he should come out, we're about to concede a goal, and we usually do. But I just don't think we can ignore how leaky the goal, how much we've conceded since Popey's gone. And it's a massive reason for it is because he's just such a pivotal part to the team. I think it just runs, everyone's more confident with Pope in goal.
Agree. Right, Steve, this is potentially your lineup according to SofaScore. Do you play a 3-4-2-1 still?
Can you just go back a screen? I've just got a couple of points to make about your injuries.
I haven't got time for that. Let's talk about your team. We're running late, mate. So let's talk about your team.
Awful host, Linzi, Ian.
Well, we're 57 minutes into an hour show, mate. So come on, let's get a move on.
To be fair, it's probably going to be the same lineup that we've had for the last 7 games.
Is that right, though? The formation, right? Because I don't know as much as you do.
That's exactly how we've been playing. So Mitchell and Muniz have been getting around the back. Muniz, what a signing. £8 million we paid for him. Fantastic signing. And his movement, his crossing ability, it's been brilliant. But it's worth noting, really, Chris Richards has been really, really good for us as well. And Klein has had 2 brilliant games, the last 2 games. But we haven't really got any options. We haven't, the list that you went through, you could see the injuries. There isn't anything to revert to, really, and there's no strength in depth at all on the bench.
That front three is worrying, though, isn't it? I mean, I know Matete is coming into form now, and he wasn't great, but Eze and Elise really worry me. Will Hughes, he doesn't get a lot of credit these days. Is he still?
Will Hughes was superb on Sunday. Probably man of the match for me, but yeah, he's a solid player. He doesn't create.
He's been around, hasn't he?
Huh?
He's been around, hasn't he?
He's only 28. Arsenal 3-0 up now.
Chelsea falling apart again. Oh God, that tells you how bad Chelsea are. He'll be loving that though. But Will Hughes has been quite a few clubs though, and he seems to have settled well at Palace. Yeah,
he's settled well. He's still only 28, but I'd just like to see a better quality and a better depth. And the summer is absolutely key to that. But right now, that's what we've got. That's what we're working with. And to be fair, all of them are embracing what Glasner's sort of putting across. And Adam Wharton, what a signing that is.
Willock's pick doesn't look like it's right. Willock's. Not too sure. I know Willock's out for the rest of the season. They're resting him as well because they don't want to have surgery again, which will be even out for even longer. So they're trying to nurse him back. Let's see what happens with that. Right, this is how SofaScore's got us lined up. I'm not sure we will go 4-3-3 tomorrow night, Ian, because we were so good against Spurs. in that 3-4-3 formation that Palace play. It was the perfect away performance at home. I would like to see us shape up the same again. Would you?
I've went Murphy, Shaw, Burn, Livermento, Longstaff, Bruno, Anderson, Gordon, Isak, Barnes. And I think Miggy will be on the bench. I've got a sneaky feeling he's going to be on the bench.
I don't think Miggy's making the bench, mate. I know Wilson should make the bench.
Yeah, I've got a sneaky.
And Tino's got a fitness test, and Trippier could make the bench as well.
Well, I think Livermento will go down that left-hand side. I do.
What about Hall?
It's
not Hall there.
I don't think he's got any. It's when he plays, he's only got 50 minutes in him or 60 minutes in him. I think he'll go Livermento, mate. I really do. Just with the pace out there, and I think Kraft. I think Kraft needs to come out of the team, mate. I think he's just been a little bit.
I thought he was good against Spurs though. When they played the way they played, the way that they dropped into a 5, then went into a 3 when we were attacking. I thought it worked really well. I thought he was solid. I thought everyone was solid, to be fair, against Spurs.
I think we were forced to play him simply because Livermento wasn't fit.
We're still not potentially fit. You've got a late fitness test apparently tomorrow night.
If you're looking at where Burns played his best games of late, it has been that left side of centre half.
Left centre back, yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking, especially with the pace of if these wingers down the sides, at least it's you're vulnerable to Burn to be if he's out there. Do you know? I mean, Elliot Anderson will come in there and cover quite well, but I just think if Livermento's, I think if he's fit, he'll play left back and tuck Burn inside, and drop Kraft into the bench. The front three picks itself, mate, for me, because I think that's all.
Oh yeah, the front three I don't think will change.
Yeah, they pick itself, and I think if you're going off the front three from them that are in form, the front three for us that's in form, it's going to be hopefully a very attacking game. I think Hughes is going to have to have another man of the match game because I think the form Bruno's in to take control of him, and if Bruno gets the upper hand, I think we'll edge it. Like I think it's going to be tight, but I think we'll edge it.
It's always tight up. I won't say it's going to be goals. There's hardly any ever goals when we go away to Palace. It's always a tight game.
Yeah.
Lindsay, what changes would you make to that team there? I mean, I'm pretty much the same as you know. I'd like to see Burn at left centre back. I'd like to see Hall at left back. But I would like to go 3-4-3 again because it works so well against Spurs. Yeah,
I love the system we had against Spurs. I'm much happier with Dan Burn playing left centre half. I think it's, obviously he works hard when he's in left back, but they do target him for pace. But when he's
criminal to move him after his performances.
Oh my God, he's been unbelievable. So I'd have Dan Burn in the left centre half. Tino I'd probably have playing from the left if obviously Hall isn't fit, and I'd have Kraft on the right as a right back unless Trippier's able to come in. But and then Fabi sitting there at the back. Our midfield, I think that's just pretty standard really as well. I'd like to see Anderson get a start again because he looked really bright.
He's playing well.
He's been playing really well, so I'd like to see Anderson get another start.
I would start him ahead of Sean Longstaff, to be honest with you. If we were going to play 4-3-3, that's how I would go.
Give Longy a rest. I mean, he has been playing through an injury, hasn't he? So
exactly. Yeah, definitely. Right, well, the last little part of the show, but very quickly, please subscribe if you've enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up button. Consider becoming a member. We've got amazing sponsors, Diacro, who are going to be giving away a $40 gift card this month once I get it all arranged. 20% off, though, by using code BAZ20. Link is in the description. And, of course, Football Prizes do amazing raffles. Please consider buying some tickets for some of the stuff. They even do Palace shirts as well. They do cash prizes. They do all the teams in the Premier League. And they give me £100 to promote them, and that £100 is going to the Deaf Club at the end of the month. And remember, every single penny this channel makes this month profit is going straight to that cause. So if you can donate something, please do so. They smashed through what they originally put the target to. They now raised it to 400. They're £35 away from hitting that. technically, when we give them the money, they're up to about nearly £600, which is amazing, and it'll do so much good for them and for all the kids. So please check it out and give £1. Every little helps. And I'll be live tomorrow night doing the watch along for my sins straight after work. Right, score predictions. Everyone get them in the chat. Steve, I'm going to come to you first as the guest of the opposition. What do you think the scoreline's going to be?
If we play like we did against Sunday on West Ham on Sunday, then I think we will be very difficult for you to live with, especially if we get round your back four, because I don't really see any quality in your defence, if I'm being honest. And a lot of your defence, apart from Livramento, who I rate, I suspect in the summer you're probably going to replace anyway, or at least let a few of them leave.
I think we will play it with Charles stay. Livamento's obviously going to stay. Byrne will stay as a backup. We've got Lewis Hall as a left back now, who might be playing tomorrow night. We don't know.
Byrne will be happy to stay.
Oh, he will. Trust me.
Not for the game time that he's going to get.
He will. Trust me.
He'll stay. He's at home.
A Geordie. He wants to take any part he can in this squad.
It's home Sunderland.
Shut up, man. He's from Blythe. It's the drug and gun capital of the Northeast, Blythe, man. So what's the scoreline going to be?
I think we're going to beat you 2-0.
Ooh, confident. Hey, you never know. Linzi?
Because we're hardly conceding anything right now, goals-wise.
Yeah, but you haven't come up against Isaac, though. That's the other thing. Or Gordon, or Barnes.
Isaac's a good player, but he don't do it for me.
Yeah, but do you remember when we're getting ready to play Spurs and Sky Sports were bigging up Van der Ven the whole time?
Yeah.
And then Isaac sat him straight down on his backside.
And then Gordon did it a minute later.
Gordon sat him down a minute later. So, I'm going to say 2-1.
I personally think all of our last 5 games are winnable, apart from Villa, which will be the one we might struggle
4-0
with.
to Arsenal.
4-0 Arsenal now.
Oh, yeah, just scored. Who scored that?
Havertz again. Havertz on the double.
Again.
He never scored for Chelsea like that. They'll be seething. It's like when Chris Wood turned up to St James's and bagged a hat trick.
You had to bring that up, didn't you? You're going 2-1. He's gone 2-0 to Palace. Ian, what are you going for?
2-1 Newcastle.
Ooh.
That's what
I like it. So use two a sharing. I'm actually going for a sneaky 1-0 win because I honestly think it's going to be a tight game. Yeah. And I think
there'll be goals.
I don't think there'll be that many goals. I think it'll be 1-0 either way, but I'm obviously going to say Newcastle. But if Palace score the first goal, they could defend resolutely as they did against Liverpool again, and we might find it hard to get past them. So I think whoever scores the first goal wins the game, and it'll be 1-0.
I think personally, your defence is really going to struggle with Menteto, Elise, and Eze, and that is the key for us. Everyone
said we'd struggle against Spurs' attack and how quick they were, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, but Spurs are a funny one. They're either outstanding or they're absolutely dreadful. And
they are very
they smashed Villa 4-0. You never saw that one happening. And then the following game they lost. And you're like, don't know what to expect here.
I think you spunked your load against West Ham, and you're not going to have enough on Wednesday night.
No chance.
We've had a nice rest as well. We've had a nice week and a bit off. So yeah, I still think it's going to be a tough game, and I'll take a 1-0 win. We can't really afford to draw games if we want to try and stay 6. We've got to really keep on pushing. So I think a 1-0 win tomorrow night. I really do. Right, that's the end of the show. Thanks, Steve, for coming on. I really appreciate it. As always, it's always fun. It's always laughter and always stupidity sometimes. But there's some... He knows his football. It's just a shame he doesn't stick to just the football stuff sometimes. Linzi, it's great to have you back.
Yeah, sorry.
Ian, just a quick one. Are you on every week with Baz?
No.
I'm on sometimes 3 times a week with Baz.
Is there any chance you can start running the shows instead? I just think you'd probably get a lot more traction and subscribers.
He says it every time whoever's on the show with me. It's great. Ian, thank you as always. I will be live tomorrow night at 10 to 8, and then we'll be live on Thursday doing the review and the look ahead to Saturday because I'm on night shift Friday night. So please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button so you know when we're live, and enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Take care.
Good night.